Welcome, everybody. I'm Jamo Barnard. Happy to be here at the Mindshare Nexus again. And this particular training is about prospecting mastery. I'm personally very excited about this topic. I have this 3-day training that I've sort of condensed into this. And so if you like this, and there's a lot more where it came from, so I can maybe do a part 2 or part 3. But this particular topic is exciting to me because a lot of people ask me about things like digital marketing and media, and we have a studio, and we have a lot of history in that, and there's a lot of great things on here about digital marketing, particularly from Dougie and from Jen. And this doesn't require any digital marketing at all. This is really about connecting with people and cultivating opportunities. And if there's time at the end, I have a story about how this was very, very successful for me, going through some of the kind of concepts I'm going to cover here, and then we'll obviously leave plenty of room for Q&A. So with that being said, just let me know when you can see this screen.
See it.
Good to go. Okay. So again, prospecting mastery, this is about how to find and effectively attract qualified prospects who are hungry for what you have to offer. And first thing I want to say is a huge part of prospecting is recognizing that it's a game. There's a lot of people that get really kind of weirded out about networking, and it's like this high pressure situation, and you got to say the right thing to the right person. But it can actually be fun, and you can gamify it. And so it's really, a lot of people think it's just a numbers game. But I look at it as a sorting game. You're sorting for the right people, essentially. So you want to connect with lots of people when you prospect, meaning going out there and wanting to cultivate opportunities for your business, but you want to sort for the right kinds of people. And what I mean by right people, well, right people are right for your business. You know, it's a relevant opportunity. I regularly go out and just ask people questions and connect with people all the time. And so I'm always connecting with new people. And if it's not the right kind of person, then I just smile and move on, you know, but I kind of know how to sort. And so we're going to kind of talk about some of those things in this presentation. So the first principle is really about creating the right mindset. And people talk about mindset all the time. And from a practical business sense, it's probably one of the most important things, because if you have the right mindset, then you're thinking about the right things and doing the right behaviors. And if you have the wrong kind of mindset, you tend to miss opportunities that are essentially right in front of you all the time. And so one of the first mindsets is business is not about selling products and services. It's about relationships, and it's about lasting relationships, right? And so when you know how to connect and sort for the right people, you find people that, you know, you might say are a vibrational match for you and your business and really makes sense to work with. And so I like to look at this, I like to relate people to fruit, specifically apples, right? So there's, in my view, there are three, and I learned about this concept when I was 19. I'm 43 now, and it's still relevant to this day. So this is kind of one of those like timeless truths in my view. And if you really get this concept, it'll save you a lot of time and heartache in the sort of prospecting and selling process. So I like to relate people to apples. Red apples, green apples, and rotten apples. So red apples are people that are open to opportunity. They're optimistic about the future. They're genuinely curious, engaged in conversation. And you want to spend 80% of your time with these kinds of people. It seems obvious, but I can't tell you how many people get involved in conversations with people at a networking event, or not even a networking event, but just kind of spend a lot of time with people that are not open-minded and positive about the future and genuinely enthusiastic. And so if you want to be good at networking and enrolling people into your business, I recommend about 80% of your time looking for red apples, just yes people. Simple concept. This is a little more subtle. Green apples are generally analytical people. They ask lots and lots and lots of questions. They have a healthy sense of skepticism. If you give them a proposal for your business, they want more information, they want more follow-up, they want to deliberate a lot. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, a lot of people are analytical. Having a good sense of healthy skepticism is good. You know, a lot of scams out there, etc. So you want to spend 80% of your time, because green apples are maybe people, right? They're not necessarily saying, yes, I'm open to this opportunity. Yes, I'd love to connect with you. Yes, let's follow up and have another meeting. They're kind of maybe people, right? They're generally sort of skeptical people, analytical types. And so then that comes to rotten apples. Now, I don't mean rotten people, right? I don't want to call anybody rotten. But we all know people that are closed to opportunities. They have a negative and jaded attitude. They're overly skeptical and concerned with scams and just generally overly skeptical people, right? And just closed to opportunity. And rotten apples are no people, right? So you invest 0% of your time with those people. That seems an obvious one. But again, I can't tell you how many times I've witnessed people and heard people kind of surrounding themselves with the wrong people, and that's not going to lead to opportunity. So that's a general mindset of sorting. And if you think about people in these ways as it relates to opportunity and connecting and networking with people, you can really just sort it down to those two. Red apples spend 80% of your time, green apples 20% of your time. And if you see a negative person or talk to them, just kind of move on, you know? So here's a little pro tip about this too, is that green apples are the majority of people that you'll probably encounter, especially in the business world, or if you're doing business to business, like you're doing team building, you know, as an example. And so a lot of times you're going to have multiple layers of decision making in a sales process. And so, you know, you're going to get that healthy sense of skepticism. And there are things that you can do, of course, to build credibility, which we won't go super deep into this discussion, but it's kind of just important to calibrate, right? Is I guess what I want to say is that you're going to encounter a lot of green apple people. So when you find those red apples, those yes, ripe, open to opportunity kind of people, that's where you want to spend a majority of your time. And if you learn how to sort in this way, it actually saves you a lot of time dealing with the wrong people. So also another tip is that rotten apples are actually red or sorry, green apples are actually red or rotten apples in disguise. So sometimes there's people that are red apples, right? They are open to opportunity. They're just kind of analytical. They want more information. They need to ask their spouse or ask their boss or, you know, whatever it is, as far as like a sales process is concerned. And, you know, they just need confirmation and that's fine. But sometimes there's people that are rotten apples in disguise where they're just messing with you. They just want to test your knowledge to see how knowledgeable you are. And they're never really going to be open to opportunity in the first place. And so it's important to kind of sort that out and understand as quickly as possible, you know, is this somebody that's going to just like waste my time and be a tire kicker or, you know, be somebody that's not really worth investing in? Or is it somebody that is, you know, genuinely going to lead to opportunity, or we can create ultimately mutual enrichment, in my view. Again, business is about relationships and lasting relationships, and all lasting relationships have a mutuality to them. So you're not selling, you're sorting. That's the first kind of key mindset. So let's talk a little bit about like what is prospecting actually. I'm gonna, oops. Can you still see my screen? Okay, you can, cool. The little window is in the way. What is prospecting? Prospecting is essentially pre-enrollment. So this is not about having sales conversations. This is not about selling people on what you have to offer. Your focus should be on building rapport, building trust, building credibility. And you want to seek to spend time with red apples. Like I said, it's just, you know, people that are open to opportunity, people that are ready to take action, people that are open to discussions. So ways of being when prospecting. So this is taking this a little bit deeper. Don't sell. You want to sort, like I said. You don't want to judge anybody. Question everything. Be genuinely curious. Look for language patterns. Language patterns are things that are going to help you. If you've seen my other presentation on the growth cycle and knowing who your prospect is, knowing who your customer avatar is, you know, these are all different kinds of ways of describing, you know, who are you designed to connect with and serve in your business. So language patterns are really important because part of this prospecting process is also market research. So you want to listen deeply. You want to focus on the relationship, being in service, also remaining unattached. You know, sometimes we meet people and we're like, oh, wow, this is the perfect prospect or, you know, potential customer for me or joint venture partner, whatever reason you're prospecting for. And people tend to get needy and a little overly attached. And so it's important to understand that this is a beginning phase of a relationship and just really about making an impression and focusing on giving and being open-minded and just making a good impression, making a solid connection. And there's also 3 important factors for sorting, this concept of sorting. Number 1 is you're not trying to prove your value people jump into the sales process too quickly, start answering too many questions or trying to sound impressive. Just remember, you're not trying to prove your value in this process. You're really just building connections. You're looking for the right people to create professional connections with. And ultimately, people qualify themselves by answering your questions the right way. Now, what do I mean by that? What do I mean by answering questions the right way? Well, if you're selling, team building services, how big is your team? Tell me more about your company. What are you guys really looking for? And if they give you indicators that, they need your services, they're going to say things like, oh, there's a lot of breakdowns on my team, or my team's really big, and there's, what to listen for, right? And so that's really kind of what I'm saying is, people will answer questions the right way to give you indicators that, maybe you can take this relationship and this conversation a little bit deeper. And if not, if you're on a prospecting mission, you don't need to waste your time building that relationship further, unless you're just wanting to make friends, which is totally cool. I love doing that. But if it's business focused, then you really want to just know what questions to ask right away, and really just move on. So some time saving tips. What I do is when I'm in the prospecting mode and I'm looking to build opportunities for my business, is I make a list of people that I'm speaking with about doing business together, and I make a note if they're red, green, or rotten apples. If they're rotten apples, I don't follow up with them, obviously. If they're green apples, I focus on giving them, valuable information. And if they're red apples, I give them an offer, or I follow up on the offer, or I continue to create more value in their life. So a note is to pay close attention to green apples that you made an offer to, and the average number of questions that you had to answer on average about your offer. Meaning, again, like I said before, a lot of people are red or rotten in disguise. And if people keep making you jump through hoops, they're probably not the right prospect for you. They're probably not somebody that's ever going to do business. They just, people are like this. People get overly analytical. And like I said, sometimes they just need a few questions answered and they can move on, right? So sounds great. How do you find enough apples to sort through? Well, so this part 2 is about expanding your network. So let's get into that. This is one of my favorite quotes ever. Robert Kiyosaki, a lot of people know him for his first book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but not a lot of people are aware of the second book, The Cash Flow Quadrant. And one of the things that he says in that book is the richest people in the world look for and build networks, while everyone else looks for work. So this is really about expanding and growing the value of your network. And the bigger network you have, the more prospecting opportunities you have. So in my view, the fastest way to meet qualified prospect and grow your cash flow is to expand your network with the right kinds of contacts. A lot of people think it's digital marketing and paid media, but those are people that are really good at that stuff, and they're professional agencies. And so they'll tell you that. But without a doubt, in my experience, absolute fastest way to grow your network is connecting with the right kinds of people and building networks. So there's 3 simple methods I want to go over to grow your network. First one is taprooting. Second one is being a generous advisor. And the third one is filling a room of great people. And an important side note with this is these approaches can all work independently or they can work together, but they're most powerful if you combine them. And they're all methods that can be done offline or online, no matter what stage of business you're at. So these principles are not unique to the size of your business. They're also not unique to being online or offline strategies. It's low-tech stuff, and it's really about connecting with people in the right way. So method number 1, let's talk about the taproot. So what is a taproot? A taproot is a large central and dominant root from which other roots sprout laterally. And your network of contacts is much like this when you think about the people that you know, the people that they know, and the people that they know. This picture on the left here kind of is a picture of a taproot, and it does represent how networks work, right? You have your sort of main channel, your primary route, and then you have other roots branching off that, and other roots branching off that, and other roots branching off that. We've all heard of the principle of 6 degrees of separation, things like that. And these days online, again, these are not online specific strategies, but, anybody is reachable nowadays, right? Like you can get on somebody's social media account and send a message directly to them. And a lot of times, if they're really well-connected people, sometimes they're not assistants or teams that are managing those accounts. Sometimes they're managing them themselves. And I've done this before. So a taproot is a networking skill where you contact someone you know for the sake of connecting each other's contacts in order to expand both of your spheres of influence. And then you do it again and again with the new contacts that you make. So it kind of looks like that. And the best tap roots are done with connectors. And connectors are people who already have access to the tribe that you want to connect with. And connectors are everywhere. And we don't always think about this. So you can ask people that you already know to introduce you to connectors that you identify, or you can meet with them in your daily life and make friends with them. But ultimately, some examples of connectors, these aren't the only examples, these are just ones that I like. So obviously people with a similar tribe, people who have, it's a great example of people with a similar tribe is like somebody who has a business that serves the same type of people that you do, but you're in a non-competitive type of business, right? So again, earlier I met somebody that has a team building business, and if you're a marketing agency or you're a leadership consultant, those might be some of the same kind of audience, but the service you provide is very different or just slightly different. So that's a great example of people with a similar tribe. Also, people like magazine owners, trade organization executives, ministers of churches, financial planners, community organizers, camp counselors, party promoters, event producers, leaders of men's or women's group. These are all examples of connectors, people who bring other people together consistently. And sometimes these are people that you know personally, and other times they're just a few degrees of separation from you. So the next actions here are really make a list of the connectors that you know personally or that someone you know is connected to them. Dougie's a connector, right? He's brought us together through Mindshare Nexus, Dougie and Jen, right? So that's an example. Schedule a time to contact them, call or email, invite them to create an experience together that connects key people together and creates value for everybody. Then invite them to create an experience together that connects all the key people. Oh, that's a double bullet point there. So here's some examples of what to say, right? It's nice to know that you can connect with connectors, but it's important to know what to say. So here's just a couple of examples. So, hi, John, I really admire what you've done with your men's group, and I have some ideas about how to add value to what you're doing. Let's set up a time to connect and discuss. Another one, hi, Sheila, that event you put on last week was wonderful. I really enjoyed connecting with such high caliber, heart-centered people. I have some ideas about how to bring more value to your events. Are you open to speaking Thursday at 1 o'clock? And another one, hi Maya, I'm looking to connect with Tracy and I know you two are friends. I have a really great idea for her magazine that I wanted to share with her. Would you mind making an introduction? Now, that all may seem very simple or not, may sound scary to some people, but with each of these messages, there's three components. You want to focus on them and what they want or what you perceive that they want. You want to mention something specific about what they are already doing, and then make a clear request to connect with them and provide something valuable. And of course, you can talk a little bit about your business. That's all fine, but it's really not about your business. Just make it all about them, right? And you can add in, oh, this is what I do and this is what is valuable to me, but don't be creepy about it. And what do I mean by that? Well, don't make it all about you and your business. People do this way too much. Real networking is about finding ways to make other people more successful. That's from the book Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. Highly recommend it. It's a really great book about the topic that we're on right now. So next actions, make a list of all the connectors you know personally or that you want to connect with. Schedule a time to connect with them. Create experiences together that can create valuable for everybody, and be sure there are people that have access to your tribe that you can provide some kind of value. Now, obviously, you can do this just to expand your friendship group and expand your professional network. But if you're focused about this and you target specific groups of people that have access to the tribe that you're looking to connect with, you can be a little more strategic about it. And you know that you can create value for those people because you're looking to have them as clients. So that's about expanding your network, taprooting. Second part is be a generous advisor. So once you've made contact with a few connections that have access to your tribe, now you want to identify ways that you can align your expertise by creating value for them. And resist the urge to make this connection about you and your business right away. Like I said before, this is about value. Instead, lead with what you can give and how you can be of service to their mission. This is about them and building rapport and connection And the best way to do that is by giving first. So here's some ideas to offer value to somebody who's a connector, and being a generous advisor to them. You can offer to MC their next event. Maybe you're a great speaker and you have something special that you do that no one else does. Or you can give them expert feedback that you have about how they can enhance the experience of what they're up to. Or you can offer a resource or contact or way to save money, or increase quality, like a vendor or something like that. Or you can offer to connect them with one of your contacts who could add value to what they need for their product or service or experience, or a problem that they have that they're looking to solve. You can point out the way that they're losing money and tell them exactly how to fix it. You can offer to volunteer for their next live experience. I mean, there's unlimited ways of offering value. These are just a few ideas. You can share with them a few pitfalls to avoid based on your experience of having been in the same shoes. Maybe it's something that you've done before that you see somebody else doing. You could see them being more successful. You can invite ways of avoiding pitfalls that you see them maybe doing. You can also give them an insider tip that could give them an advantage over a competitor in their space. You could just simply acknowledge an attention to subtle details that you see in them and share your affinity for the same. You know, people that bring people together and people that put a lot of energy into creating events or, you know, building up companies, they put a lot of energy into the subtle details. And when somebody notices that, it actually sets you apart from people who don't notice that or appreciate it. And so sometimes just pointing something out really valuable that somebody did, that's a subtle detail, it sets you apart because they now see like, oh, you think like me, we have the same mindset, and that leads to connection and trust. Ultimately, a cardinal rule of human behavior: once you've given first, most people seek to return the favor. It's just true. We all have these experiences. And so if I haven't emphasized it enough already, this is about being generous, advisor, giving first, connecting with people. And the final and third method is really about filling the room. So now that you have established a connection, you can suggest ways to create an experience that connects your people together, right? So connecting my people with your people, expanding the experience. So here's a few ideas for creating experiences together. Create a networking event, create a mastermind group. By the way, this is almost everything on this list I think Mindshare is doing, which is really awesome. You can create a mastermind group, you can organize a dinner, screen a film and facilitate a talk, co-facilitate an interactive workshop, teach people a hands-on skill, organize an outing, host a charity event for a common cause, conduct a podcast interview, create a segment of content for their event or online program, ask them to be part of your event or online program, or create a program or offering together. These are just a few ideas for creating experiences for bringing groups of people together. And it's less important which kind of event it is, and it's much more important that it creates value for the people who are there. You know, this is kind of a business and life optimization mastermind that they've put together with Mindshare Nexus. But, you know, there's also hikes that we go on together and things like that. And so it's really just about creating value in the community. Oftentimes, we don't realize that our attitude towards something has been influenced by the number of times we've been exposed to it in the past. That's by Robert Cialdini, author of the book Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. That's a really great book as well. I highly recommend it. And the reason why I added this quote is because, you know, creating enriching experiences, especially like in the sort of post-COVID era where we're all sort of quarantined to our houses, and the online thing became really huge during that time. There was a lot of people that didn't do business online, and now people are really craving to get out there. I mean, this is really the best time in the summertime, where people are out, people are doing stuff, people are traveling. And so the more types of valuable experiences that you create for people to connect together, people tend to remember that stuff, and they tend to be influenced in their attitudes towards those types of things. So hence the value of creating like-minded people together, and hence the value of connecting with connectors. So next actions around this is think of people in your life who you have good connections with that you may or may not see as connectors. Find out what organizations or affinity groups they're a part of that might be of interest to you, and see if you can think of ways to give something of value to make a new connection. So final review on this, sorting instead of selling is the most effective way to prospect. It's not just simply a numbers game. You're looking for the right apples. You're looking for people that are ripe, that are open to opportunity, that are yes people. You're gonna come across green apples, people that are skeptical, people that want more information, people that are not ready to make a decision. And yes, you're gonna come across negative people. So Again, 80% with the red apples, the yes people, 20% with the green apples, the maybe people, 0% with the rotten apples, not rotten people, just rotten to opportunity, not open-minded people. And you're only looking for people who are genuinely interested in your offers, which supports the previous point. And your job when prospecting is to build rapport, trust, and credibility. It's not to sell, it's not to impress people, it's just to make a connection. Also, your network of contacts is much bigger than you think. When you really take that taprooting context that I described earlier, it's really amazing how vast your network is. And I'm going to tell a story about that in a minute here. So, and then you also want to be generous. Look for ways to be of service, to create rapport, to create trust and credibility. It's actually really easy to fill a room of amazing people, to have engaging conversations and build connections when you're generous about creating value with connectors and seek ways for mutual success. Because people that are already bringing people together, again, like I said, I am one of those people. I own a venue. I've built events. I've built festivals. I've built trade shows. I've built conferences. And it's a lot of work. You know, anybody who has done any kind of events who connect people together, it's a huge labor of love. You know, we do it far beyond just, you know, business and making money. We do it because we love bringing people together. And so when somebody comes forward and offers value to what we're already doing, most people that are real connectors are looking for people to do that. And they pay closer attention when people show up and create value. Because a lot of times people are just asking from you, asking you for more instead of showing up to give. So a brief story that I'd love to tell about this, and then we will open it up for questions. So I actually used all three of those principles that I went over. Is my slideshow gone here? Yeah, okay, cool. So I just wanted to share this story to kind of really emphasize it. So many years ago, this is a little over 10 years ago. This guy, Glenn Morris, who rest in peace, he's since passed away. And this little thing that he offered me and where it went was one of the most biggest blessings for my business ever. So I used to take my car to his automotive maintenance shop. And he's a really nice guy. They took care of my car. And so they did a really good job. And so I always used to kind of give him free advice. I'm just doing the things that I'm talking about in this presentation, right? I'm just, hey, how's it going here? You know, what are you doing? How do you get new customers? And, you know, how's business and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, it was up and down for them for a while. And I ended up helping him make a huge difference in his business. He actually wanted to work with us, and it wasn't really like in our target. It was a very small business, and we worked with larger companies at that time. And but he convinced me because I wasn't like that excited about the automotive space, number one, and number two, I didn't know if I really had the bandwidth to help him out. But he was really big on, you know, renewables and, you know, re-refined oil and like things like that. And he was just really, he cared a lot about the environment in a business where it's kind of, most people don't, and it's kind of hard. And he had this really beautiful perspective around service. And so yeah, we said, you know what, let's help him out. And so we just kind of helped him out a little bit here and there, but it ended up making a really big impact. And one day he came to me, he said, you know, what you guys have been doing for us, you should connect with this trade organization that he was part of and do the same thing for other shops. And I was like, well, I wasn't super excited. It was like a $50 like software that I was like licensing to them, along with some kind of like training and like little tricks here and there. And I wasn't excited to cold call a bunch of people, but he just kind of gave me this tip off of this trade organization. And then he said, well, I'll make a direct introduction to them because I think what you guys are offering is really valuable. And I found out that there were 16,000 of these kinds of locations in the US. And if I just got 2% of that market at $50 a pop, that would be $10,000 a month in recurring revenue. So this is like the math that I was doing in my head, you know? But then it started to get a lot more interesting because I wasn't quite sold on the approach, and I didn't know if I wanted to go and like work with a bunch of automotive shops yet. But as I got deeper and deeper into the discussion, I realized that this trade group, they actually needed a lot of help, right? So I ended up connecting with the trade organization, and I made a deal that if they gave us a booth at their trade show, that I would give them 50% of commissions on all new customers if they gave me access to their network. I also asked them if they had any kind of training. This is over 10 years ago. So that market wasn't really focused on social media or anything like that. So I said, hey, I'll do 3 different trainings on some really basic stuff, on social media and how you can reach more of your audience. And so I ended up negotiating a prime spot in their sort of trade show programming because they didn't have any programming around any of this kind of stuff, right? And through all of that, every training I did, there was like hundreds of people in the room. And so I was like, oh my God, man, my business partner were looking at it and we're going to get tons of people coming to our booth. And that actually didn't happen. We got a steady flow, but it wasn't as crazy as we thought it was going to be. And we're like, man, we're not really sure if this is going to end up being really awesome and really fruitful, But what happened was there was one attendee in that room that was actually the president of another trade group. So this was a trade organization. They had a booth at this trade organization, kind of part in the similar market, but slightly different. And they were exhibiting at the show. And they said, oh, here's our booth. Guy came up to me, started talking to me. Hey, I really valued your presentation. I think a lot of our members. And it turns out that their members were, not only were they larger companies, but they had, I think the other one was 16,000 locations. This had like 50,000 locations in them. And they actually ended up being our client. They represent the largest automotive aftermarket companies in the world. And we ended up building a whole custom product for them built on our intellectual property. And we ended up generating about $500,000 in revenue over being a client for about 8 years. I also ended up selling the software to them. And so the moral of that story is I tapped into an industry where I virtually had no expertise or contacts. I didn't know anybody in the automotive industry at all, other than starting with this one local guy that said, hey, you should connect with this trade organization. And then I sort of followed up and, became the generous advisor and just gave them a lot of insight and value and, connected with a bunch of people in their trade organization and just kept learning more and more about who they were and just kept giving and giving and giving. And then ultimately went to their trade show and filled a room full of people in a topic that they didn't even have anything for. And so from their end, it was like we were giving so much and we were offering so much value to their community. And in return for that, it didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go, but it actually ended up making us a whole bunch of money, having a long-term client, and getting us a lot of credibility in that community. And I used no online marketing strategies to do it. I basically used the 3 kind of core methods that I talked about today and earned like 6,000 times the investment I made to go into that trade show. So that's the end of the story. With that, I want to leave plenty of places for questions. And I would love it if somebody has like a prospecting scenario right now or a sales kind of scenario right now that you're having trouble with, because I think that could be, really useful for everybody here.
Jamo, thank you so much. This has just been amazing. Before we get into Q&A, I just want to express deep gratitude for all of this stuff that you do. And so Jamo, everybody, if you don't know, he does this monthly. Do you know what the topic is for the next month, Jamo?
I don't.
All right, well, some feedback. Maybe it'll inspire the topic. But before we stop recording, because I'm a host, I can press stop. But before we do, I just want to say thanks again. And if you want to find out more about this and our other events upcoming, then head over to mindshare.nexus. And now we will get into a little Q&A. All right, I'm going to press stop.
Awesome.